Hello, Architect Nation, and today is a special episode of the Business of Architecture podcast. We're going to be talking about the state of the architecture industry. So let's just get right into it. One of the questions that we've been getting a lot recently is from firm owners is the following. What are you seeing in the market? What's happening? What are other firm owners experiencing? People are starting to be concerned about slowdown. People are starting to be concerned about some constriction in the economy. So I just want to interrupt our normal programming here on the Business of Architecture podcast just to give you a very clear, succinct, and transparent update of what we're seeing here across the many small firms that we partner with here at Business of Architecture, as well as some of the economic indicators that the media and the industry is seeing, as well as some solutions to how you can not only just survive during the current year 2025, but also how you can thrive in challenging times. So let's get right into it. Overall, it can look kind of bleak because there's a lot of architecture firm owners at this state, early 2025, who feel like they're operating in survival mode. Now, the AIA Architecture Billings Index, which is a leading indicator of construction activity, has remained below 50 for 28 of the last 31 months, with April 2025 dropping to 43.2, what AIA chief economist Kermit Baker calls a really bad reading. The sustained decline in billings, combined with mounting operational pressures of running a firm, hiring team members, making sure that deadlines are met, has caused a mental state best described as panic, or let's say controlled panic, amongst many architecture firm principals. The economic anxiety runs deep and specific. We're not going to sugarcoat it. Here in the U.S., Trump administration immigration policies have triggered. Some news reports are reporting 20 to 30% workforce no-shows at construction sites. So consider that this may be something that your contractors and your jobs will be facing following the ICE raids, as reported by Reuters. While tariffs reportedly have driven up steel prices 15 to 25% and aluminum prices up 8 to 10%. So this is impacting everything from the pricing of electrical wiring to obviously steel, which is in so many part of the built environment, according to Architect Magazine and Construction Drive. Now, on the financing front, in the financial world, the banking industry, with rates holding steady at 4.25% to 4.5%, with no cuts expected until possibly September, construction lending is also tightening. According to the AIA, one 29-person firm in the South recently reported, for the first time since 2008, we are considering layoffs. Now, as someone who was around in 2008, the last thing I want to see, the last thing I want to go through for myself or the industry as a whole is another repeat of 2008. We know what that was like. Unemployment skyrocketed 50, 60% in the architecture industry. So many small firms, many of you created your firms at this time because of those layoffs. And so a lot of us do have PTSD, wondering, what's the repeat of that? I don't want to go back to that. That was really tough. It took us, those of us who experienced that, it may have taken you 4, 5, 6 years to climb out of the hole of that particular recession, not only just financially, but also mentally. In addition to that, beyond these economic factors, there are reports that 82% of contractors now face payment delays exceeding 30 days. So it's not just you that's having potential problems with cash flow, but this is happening at the contractor level. And of course, this impacts everyone else who's downstream or upstream of that. Interestingly, it's reported that firms are only averaging 6.4 months of project backlog right now, which is the smallest cushion in 3 years, according to the AIA. Meanwhile, 25% of firms report being understaffed, with smaller firms averaging 53% below required staffing levels, according to Architecture Magazine and the AIA. So What's interesting about that is that firms are getting squeezed from both directions. Not only difficulty finding talent, not only difficulty staffing, maybe busy at the moment, but also experiencing perhaps some projects being put on pause, delays in proposals being signed, difficulty collecting cash into the business to continue to fund operations. And you as a firm owner are potentially being caught in this perfect storm. Add on to this all the complexity with remote workers, with lack of experienced and skilled workforce, as well as AI technologies, artificial intelligence, language learning models. There is a lot to think about, and it can often feel like we are in the middle of a hurricane. We're just things are flying around. It's hard to keep up with the trends and all the impacts that are in the industry right now. So the question is, what do you do as a small firm practice owner in times like these? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Well, suggestion number one is to make sure you're using some sort of business operating system. This is what we talk about here at Business of Architecture. We have the smart practice that we developed. It's a rational and logical, sustainable way for running the operations of your practice to mitigate many of the challenges and problems that small firm owners face, whether it comes to hiring, staffing, resource allocation, trying to figure out who's free to work on this project, trying to manage the invoicing so that you actually have enough money to pay all the bills. Not only that, but actually even going beyond just surviving, having a thriving firm that allows you to continue to do your best work. So that's suggestion number one. Use a unified and whole systems approach to how you run the business side of architecture. Now, while that's important, I wouldn't say it's the most important thing. With the increasing pressure that AI is putting on the workforce, it's going to be replacing many of the lower level jobs that we have in the industry. So the question is, what are we going to do to retool the workforce? What is it going to look like for an architect to be able to gain the experience that an architect needs to be the curator, to be the conductor, to be the manager, to be the one who uses these AI tools in an effective manner? At times like this, it's very, very easy to go into decision paralysis, paralysis by analysis, to want to bury our heads in the sand, to ignore what's happening in the industry, just fall back to the busy work. In other words, it's very easy to let the overwhelm of business detract from taking a bigger picture view and taking rational, well thought out, strategic moves to protect yourself, to protect your clients, and to protect your team members. So AI can help you with strategy. You can go to ChatGPT and you can say, what's the best way to market my firm? How should we deal with an economic slowdown? And you can get some great, great strategies out of there. However, what I'd have you consider is there's something even below that, which is your individual leadership in a situation like this. So as we talk about what can be done to not just survive, but thrive, I want you to consider that it is you accessing your innate leadership as a leader for yourself, number one, and for your team, number two. I'll give you an example of what I mean. I've used my marriage as an example before. It's no secret. I've talked about it here on the podcast. I'm happily married, father of 6 children. And what I recognize is that a marriage has been one of the most challenging as well as the most rewarding and soul-stretching parts of my life. Now, having said that, the reason why I find marriage to be so hard is because when my wife and I disagree, when we have some sort of conflict, when I misstep, when I do something where my lesser self shows up, that side of myself that I'm not super proud of, these have emotional impacts on me. It has a toll on me. It can throw me into a tailspin. So maybe you've had the experience where you have something emotional that's been upsetting and disturbing for you. It may be in your marriage. It may be with a colleague. It may be with a friend. It may be some news you've gotten about the business. It may just be paying attention to all the media and the crazy things that are happening in the world nowadays. So what happens as we're sitting in this place of emotional turmoil, as we're sitting in this place of wondering, where is the stability that I can grab onto? This is the challenge of being a leader. So not only do you have this happening in yourself and you have strategies for dealing with this, you can throw yourself into the work. You can focus on just pulling out your to-do list and making sure you're checking items off your to-do list. Perhaps you may even sedate using things like alcohol and drugs. And the whole purpose of this is to be able to manage this sense of chaos that we feel, this sense of overwhelm, this sense of burnout, this sense of potential but not guaranteed ultimate doom that we may be feeling in times like these. Now, this doesn't apply to you. Perhaps in your firm right now, it's blue skies and clear sailing. However, for a lot of people listening to this episode right now today, you have started to wonder and to worry perhaps. You've seen some of the things that are happening in the news. You've seen crazy things being done by politicians. You're wondering what's happening in the world at large. And then these things may be reflected in your team. It may be reflected in your family. It certainly is going to have an impact on your mental health as an owner and also the mental health of the people within your architectural practice. So I just want you to consider that this is why it's so important to understand this key principle that your results in business start and end with you as a leader. There's no smart practice system. There's no secret techniques or special best practices that are going to save your architectural practice, that are going to save your business. It's you. You're the one. It's accessing your own situational leadership so that in the moment when you are called upon to make the important decisions that can have massive impact for where your firm goes and what happens, what projects you close, what projects you don't, that you are operating from a higher level of consciousness. You are operating from an empowered version of yourself. So the question I have for you as we wrap up today's State of the Union address is simply this. In Smart Practice, we talk about something called the core 4 parts of life. So when we look at the core 4, we're looking at these 4 domains, as I like to call them in life. Number 1, your body, your physical health, the functioning of your organs, your eyesight, your mental acuity, your stress level, your hormones, your pulse, your musculature, skeletal tone, your flexibility, your mobility, just your vessel, your human body that you're in. How well does it function? That's body. Number 2, in no particular order, being. Ultimately, your sense of confidence, your spiritual connection to something greater than yourself, especially your connection to yourself. Number 3, balance. Your relationship with your partners and your posterity, your romantic partner, your children if you have them, your grandchildren, and last but not least, your business. So we look at these 4 core domains: body, being, balance, and business. And we realize that storms can occur in any one of these. Right now, some people are experiencing a storm in the business area. Right now, some people are experiencing a storm in the body area. Right now, some people are experiencing a storm in the balance area. And many people right now are experiencing a storm, and you will not be alone if this is the case, of feeling a storm in the being area, wondering what's happening in the world, where are things going. It's really upsetting to see a lot of things that are happening, and so there's a heavy emotional toll. So at this time, consider that your team members need leadership. Your family members are looking for leadership. They're looking for someone who, in the midst of the chaos, can stand up with a feeling of groundedness, a feeling of certainty, that gentle connection that says, look, we're going to be all right. We're going to get through this. We've been through worse things before. There's no problem here. We're going to show up and we're going to continue to do the work on ourselves, each of us individually, so that as a team, we can operate and we can show up the best way possible for our clients, the best way possible for the contractors, the best way possible for our colleagues, the best way possible for our family members. Recently, my business partner, Ryan Willard, who's a principal here at Business of Architecture, he came back from a 3-week sabbatical in Southeast Asia. So he was able to tour. He went to Singapore. He went to Vietnam. He spent a lot of time in contemplation, a lot of time visiting various temples and holy sites. And he came back with a very interesting insight. As he was able to unplug from the day-to-day of the business world for a while, even turn off the cell phone, unplug from all the social media updates, a message came through very powerfully for him that I'd like to share and have you consider. And the message was this: go slow to go fast. You see, oftentimes in today's hectic world, from the moment we enter grade school, it's all about how many things can you do? How many things can you get done? How many things can you check off of your list? And yet, consider this for a minute, that when we look rationally at, are all tasks created equal, we realize that they're not. Now just consider that frame for a minute. If all tasks aren't created equal, which are the most important tasks? So Stephen R. Covey talks about the idea of important tasks and urgent tasks. And he creates a beautiful quadrant where he says some tasks are important and urgent. These would be things like following with the client to get a contract signed or a proposal signed. Some things are urgent but not important. The trash can needs to be taken out. It's overflowing. That's urgent. Important? Well, possibly, but it doesn't rank in the list of things that are important in a business. So that would be an example of something that is urgent and not important. Now, there are things that are important and not urgent. And these are the times, or these are these situations and the things that you want to be spending some time on every single month. It doesn't need to be every single week, but it should be at least every single month, taking a bigger picture look at where are we actually headed? What are the threats that are coming down the road? What are the opportunities that are headed for us? And being able to operate from a grounded sense of strategic responsibility. Now, what we recommend here at Business of Architecture and what we teach clients in the SMART practice is that a weekly accountability rhythm is so important. Even what some firms do is a daily huddle, where you're breaking down those annual goals and those annual targets that tie into your 5-year plan of where you want it to be. You're breaking those into, okay, here's our monthly focuses. And then we break those down into here's our weekly, we call them our weekly fires. And then beyond the weekly fires, we go into our daily hit list. Okay, so it's broken down very, very simply. So you can see there's a couple of things at play here. Number one, where's your mental health at? What are the things that you're doing in your life to maintain your sense of grounding, to maintain your sense of confidence, to maintain your sense of certainty? That will be the foundation. That's number one. What are you doing? What do you have in your life to be able to access your deep levels of inner leadership that you know you have, that go offline when we go into the programmed waves of being? In other words, when we're busy checking off a checklist, when we're responding to emails, when we're answering phone calls, when we're on the run all the time, we are not operating out of that higher sense of strategy, out of that higher self, that more empowered version of us that is looking at the bigger picture. We're not operating out of that grounded, confident, clearly focused version of ourself that has a bigger vision and is headed towards it. So as we wrap up today's episode, I would simply have you consider this. Look, no one's going to come in and run your firm for you. And running a practice is challenging. At the same time, the rewards can be very, very, very fulfilling. What we here at Business of Architecture call the free architect. For instance, I was talking with, I'll give you an example, Ramiro Torres, who's a firm owner based out of the Silicon Valley up in San Jose, California. He said that after implementing the strategies of smart practice, he now comes into his office and he has wide swaths of time on his calendar that are completely free. This compared to 5 years ago when he would go in and he was putting out fires all the time. He felt like he was overwhelmed. High blood pressure was happening. He was having health problems. He had 30 pounds of extra weight around his belly. He was feeling exhausted and beaten down. So how do you make that transformation? How do you go from a state of overwhelm, a state of feeling like there's too many to-dos on the list, a state of feeling like you're never getting ahead, to having a calendar that has wide open slots of time on it that you can then choose to use in a powerful and constructive way? Well, it starts, number one, with you. It starts with your mental state. It starts with who you're showing up as a leader in your practice. What are your self-care rituals? What things are you using to keep yourself grounded and keep yourself out of your past programming that may draw you into the bad habits of the past? And number two, what's the system and the systems that you're using to support you? Do you have something like smart practice that you can lean on so that your team members are empowered, so that they're not trying to guess what to name the files when they do a drawing? They're not trying to figure out which title block should we use for this particular project. They're not trying to figure out what the latest revision is on a file so they don't have to do some rework. Look, I know it can feel frustrating. I know that with the economy and some of these negative indicators that I read at the beginning of this particular episode, it can feel a bit worrisome. It can feel a bit scary. I have confidence in your inner leadership. I have confidence in your ability to lead your team. But the question is, are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to invest in yourself? Where are you getting mentorship from During these times, where's your support community? Who's your coach? Who's your board of advisors? Who's the team that you have on your side to navigate you through crises like these? Now, if you don't have someone like that, you may be a fit to work with us here at Business of Architecture. You may not. If you want to explore that opportunity, you can head over to businessofarchitecture.com/schedule, and you can answer 6 simple questions in 6 minutes. Hop on a quick hello call with one of my team of experts, and on that call, just a brief conversation. There's nothing for sale. It's an opportunity to see if it makes sense for us to continue chatting. Now, with that, I'd like to let you know that today's episode was sponsored by ArcCat. ArcCat, if you aren't familiar with them, they have a free library of Revit and CAD details to help you make it a lot easier to detail your projects, specify the right materials and specifications for your projects. You can download BIM files, CAD files, specifications. They also offer product videos, all combined into one place with the free account. We're happy that they've sponsored the Business of Architecture podcast. We're happy to partner with them, and we believe it's a great resource for you to be able to have an easy to access location to access those details, the product manufacturer specifications, everything you need in an easy format so you can improve your workflow. So thank you to ArcCat, arcat.com. That's ARCAT.com. If you haven't already, go over there, sign up for a free account. Let them know you came from Business of Architecture. We thank you greatly. And that is a wrap. All right. Thank you for joining me. And as a reminder, here at Business of Architecture, we make no representation, promise, guarantee, pledge, warranty, contract, bond, or commitment except to help you turn chaos into calm. Carpe diem, and goodbye for now.